Please. Rune plate leg / plate skirt. Yes!
The RuneScape map is split into chunks. I will restrict myself to unlocking one chunk at a time, only moving on when I've completed all of the content in my current chunks. The goal of this account is to unlock the entire map. This is ChunkManOnly, my one chunk at a time Iron Man.
We left off last episode very close to unlocking Neve and starting our first Slayer grind. We had unlocked the Ogre Enclave to get access to Greater Demons, which gave us the requirement of making Blue Dragonhide Vambraces before we could move on. We finished the last few crafting levels and killed a Blue Dragon. We boosted with the Poison Chalice and made the Vambraces. It was now time to finally unlock Neve. We first unlocked the southwestern Gnome Stronghold chunk, most of which was inaccessible until we unlocked the chunk with the entrance, which we did immediately afterwards. We then immediately got our first task, which was Anku. I was excited to start Slayer, so we immediately went into the Stronghold Cave and started killing them. While killing them though, I was talking to my Twitch chat about a comment that I'd received last episode. Verlekian pointed out that I couldn't get assigned any Slayer monster that's in the Slayer Tower since I hadn't completed Priest in Peril. This is true even if the monster has locations outside of the tower. At first, I had only thought about how this affects the tasks I could immediately be assigned as I started Slayer. If you remember from last episode, we compared the tasks from Chaeldar and Neve, and there were a few from Chaeldar that I thought could be assigned, but because they're in the Slayer Tower, I actually couldn't be assigned them. This new information didn't really change my plans there, since Neve was better anyway. However, there is something else that this affects. When we unlocked Neve and the Stronghold Slayer Cave, I had thought that this initiated a 60 Slayer grind because of the Aberrant Spectres. It turns out though, that I would have no way to even kill the Spectres. The cave is task only and I couldn't get assigned them because I haven't completed Priest in Peril. This doesn't just affect Aberrant Spectres though. Let's take a look at a list of all the monsters in the Stronghold Slayer Cave. There's Aberrant Spectres, Anku, Bloodvelds, Fire Giants, and Hellhounds. Out of these monsters, the Spectres and Bloodvelds are Slayer Tower monsters, which means that we can't get assigned them, and the other three monsters don't even have a Slayer requirement to kill. This means that the chunks I just unlocked actually don't initiate a Slayer goal at all. Last episode, we said we would need to wait for a Black Demon task before we could unlock new chunks and go to Sandras and get our Dragon Longsword. This is because Black Demons were the only task we could get assigned that we didn't currently have access to, meaning getting the task would pause the Slayer grind. This is no longer true. As long as we finished the other chunk requirements, we could now go to Sandras and get our Dragon Longsword whenever we wanted to, since Slayer was no longer locking us. As I was finishing up the chunk by doing diary tasks, I remembered something. A while ago, we unlocked Desert Lizards. We didn't yet have the Slayer level to kill them, or any way to train Slayer at all, so we put them on the backlog. Since we're now able to train Slayer though, that should be a goal. At first, I thought we'd only need to kill one of them, but after checking their drop tables, it turns out they actually drop light Mystic Gloves for some reason. I had no idea, and this is definitely news to me. But it was a new best in slot item technically, so we had to get it. I spent a bit of time killing lizards, and thankfully we got the drop significantly sooner than the drop rate. Now I was done with the chunk, and while we could continue with the Anku task and train Slayer, it makes more sense to go get ourselves a Dragon Longsword first. The difference in DPS would be really significant. So we unlocked Intrana, got the Draymond Staff, and then unlocked the Eastern Lumbridge Swamp chunk. We were finally in Sandras, and we went right away to finally buy our Dragon Longsword. We had been working towards this for months now, and it felt great to finally get it. By unlocking Sandras, there were a few things that we needed to do now. the biggest of which was a 57 Slayer requirement of mutated Zygomites. So I got back to work killing Ankus with my shiny new weapon. I got a few more Slayer levels and finished the task. I went back to Neve to get a new task, and we got Black Demons. As I mentioned earlier, this is the only task that we don't have access to. We would need to go to the Edgeville Dungeon to unlock them. Before that though, I needed to do the other requirements of the Lumbridge Swamp and Sandras chunk. An easy requirement to get out of the way was the Mistlin Mystery Quest. It's an easy quest that's all instance and you don't need any items, it only took me a few minutes. A not so easy requirement was getting an adamant ore from Eclectic Implings and smithing it. If you remember from last episode, Eclectics are the highest level Impling that has a 100% spawn rate, so we don't need to worry about the loot from any higher level Implings, thankfully. Hunter is my least favorite skill in the game, and I really don't like training the skill, and Puro is certainly no exception. So this wasn't really my favorite thing to be doing. I hoped that we could just catch a few Eclectics and get lucky and be done with it. Having the Implings run away and having to snare them, then slowly pushing between the hay bales only to have the Impling run away again was really frustrating. The drop rate of adamant ore from Eclectics is 1 out of 100. I ended up catching over 200 Eclectics and getting multiple of every other rare without getting one adamant ore loot. The benefit of getting the other rares before it though was that we didn't have to catch any more of them once we finally got the ore, which we did eventually end up getting. One of the other rares from Eclectics is a pair of red spiky Vambraces. These require level 60 ranged and are a new best in slot item for me, so I had to get 60 ranged before I could move on and unlock new chunks. Remember that we were going to the Edgeville Dungeon next to unlock Black Demons, which was a Slayer task. The Edgeville Dungeon also has Obor, which drops rune chain bodies and plate legs, which were new best in slot items. Because of this, I decided to train to 60 ranged at Hill Giants to stack up on giant keys, since we would need to kill Obor soon anyway. After getting 60 ranged and equipping the Vambraces, it was time to get to Edgeville Dungeon. We unlocked the Grand Exchange chunk first, and then the Edgeville chunk. There's a few things that we need to do here, but first, I was excited to kill our first boss on the account. We had 23 giant keys stacked up, and it was time to use them. And that's all the progress that I have for this episode. As you can see, we got a rune plate skirt drop, which is one of the 2 new best in slot items that we need from Obor, the other being a rune chain body. The Black Demons also drop a rune chain body though, so we actually don't need to get it strictly from Obor. This is a big relief because it means we're not relying on RNG with our remaining keys to determine if we need to kill more hill giants for more keys. Next episode, we'll continue with the Slayer grind and talk about some ideas that Twitch chat has helped me come up with for what we're gonna do next. It turns out that there may be a way that we can actually unlock herb lore in the not so distant future, and I'm really excited to get the details worked out and come up with a plan. As always, I'd like to give a big thanks to my patrons, Kyle Berry and Boogie Boy, as well as everybody else who's been supporting me by watching the videos and live streams. I recently joined ChunkManOnly's stream team, the underground network, and the stream has been growing a lot. I'll be live a few minutes after this video is released, so if you want to come hang out, a link is in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving it a like and subscribing to the channel. I hope you all have a great day.